With all the videos focusing on VR on the web, talking about headsets and games and just generally how VR is consumed, no one seems to be talking about the thing that I think is just as fascinating: how it's made. So I set out on a mission to not only find out how VR content is made, but how it can be made in the entertainment industry specifically. And then also how it can be made using live action filming to be even more specific. Now this of course led me to Jaunt. Jaunt is arguably the company at the forefront of this new storytelling medium. They have investors like Disney that were part of a $65 million investment round, by the way, and talent from companies like Industrial Light and Magic, the people responsible for the special effects on over 300 movies that, I don't know, maybe you've heard of some of them. Transformers, Star Wars, Harry Potter, Indiana Jones, Pirates of the Caribbean, Avatar. You get the idea. Jaunt was kind enough to give me a tour of Jaunt Studios, their facility in Santa Monica, California, and let me sit down and talk to some of their top talent to kind of try to get my head around this new medium. First up, we need to talk about the equipment. Now, you can't just go out and make a 360 video with your normal point and shoot. You need specialized equipment that can shoot front, back, up, down, all sides. Now, you're probably familiar with a few that have made their way to the consumer market, like the Gear 360. Most of them utilize two wide-angle lenses, each shooting in different directions. The thing is that these are basically the entry-level equipment into this type of content, with the next step up being things like the bubble cam and those crazy rigs with a crap ton of GoPros in them. None of this was good enough for Jaunt, however, so they built their own. This is the Jaunt 1, and it doesn't just have 2 cameras, 6 cameras, it has 24 cameras. There are 16 in a circle around the middle, and we got 4 on top and 4 on the bottom. Now the reason for this many cameras is that Jaunt believes that VR should not just be 360, but it should be 3D. In order to achieve 3D with a camera, you need multiple lenses pointed in the same direction with their field of view overlapping. In much the same way that your eyes work, your brain takes the images from each of your eyeballs, calculates the difference between the two, and then uses that to figure out depth. The Jaunt 1 does the same thing with its software and its multiple cameras. Now, as for audio, which is a completely different ballgame in the world of VR, they use what's called a tetra mic. This mic actually is 4 mics. And using some fun software, it can use those 4 mics and determine where sound came from in 360 degrees of the room. Now they then can use that and sync it up with the camera to give you a complete surround sound experience. Not only that, but as you turn and move, it can determine where those sounds need to come out of the 2 channels that you have, which are your left and right ear. Which brings up one of the big challenges of filming VR, which is an amazing thing as a user of VR, but a complete nightmare as a director. And that's free will. You, the viewer, don't have to be looking forward, and for that matter, forward doesn't really exist in VR. So the camera is capturing every angle all the way around it, up and down within the scene. You ever seen the behind the scenes of making a movie? Generally speaking, when you're looking the other direction of the camera, you'll notice that there are a lot of people behind it, from the sound guy to the grip to the director, etc. In VR, the audience can actually turn around at any time and see all of that. So VR directors have to get a little creative with how they hide their crew, putting them behind large objects such as rocks, or even putting them in the scene as extras. Beyond the logistics of filming, the director also doesn't know if you're looking at what they want you to be looking at any given time. So they have to get clever and use things like sound, for example, a tree falling in the distance with a loud thud to draw your attention to there, where the story can then continue. And of course, there is no guarantee, which is why VR right now is being utilized a lot for live events, or things where a lot of things are just happening at once around you and you're just transported to this new location. Beyond the narrative challenges, there's also vomit. This means no artistic close-ups, weird wide shots, and the other type of shots that we use in our traditional old-fashioned 2D storytelling. On the post-production side, we then have to edit this footage that we just captured. Now, most VR cameras, you can actually take that 360-degree footage and turn it into what's called an equirectangular video. You can then pop it into Adobe Premiere and edit it from there. Just keep in mind the vomit-inducing jump cuts, etc. You can even then also download a plugin that'll allow you to move around the scene in 360 using your mouse or a capable VR headset. Audio is a little more complicated, but thanks to a lot of really cool plugins, you can actually record the audio in a 360-degree view, and then it'll automatically convert it to stereo for you. After filming and editing comes the next challenge: distribution. There are options like Facebook 360 video, and even YouTube has an option for 360 video, but for someone that's coming from a TV or a film world, these aren't quite the best solutions. Also add the fact that VR consumption requires special equipment like a headset, which, at least for now, drastically limits the size of your audience. That will all change soon though, as the phones in our pockets become more and more capable of handling VR, whether we want them to or not. Google Daydream is a project that Google has started to encourage their manufacturers to put in better specs into their phones to make them better at VR. Basically though, with Google pushing this certification, what's going to happen is a lot of people are going to have these VR-ready phones in their pockets, whether they knowingly purchased one or not. That means that all you need to do is buy a very cheap headset to put your phone into, as opposed to buying a standalone VR kit like the Vive or the Rift. And that means the pool of people capable of watching your VR content will potentially increase exponentially very soon. Jaunt is also betting big that phones will be the next level of distribution for VR content, with their own distribution app for Android and iOS. They also recently announced that anyone who's producing VR or 360 content can submit it to Jaunt to be included in this app, which makes for a very interesting, potentially huge distribution channel for anyone that's producing this type of content. If you are a videographer of any sort, I highly recommend dabbling at least in 360 and VR content. Now, there are some unique challenges, as we've mentioned, but it is such a new medium that it has a huge potential to give your audiences such a unique experience like never before. At one time, motion pictures had just come out, and everyone dabbling in this new medium just basically copied plays, setting the camera somewhere where it seemed like it was just an audience member, and had these long shots that just kind of played out in front, and they wouldn't even jump shots very often. But eventually, this new medium matured and became its own unique way of telling stories. Movies as a play is kind of where we are with VR content right now, and it's going to be up to those people that go out and dabble in this industry first to really define what it will become. Maybe the next Hitchcock or Kubrick or Allen are out buying a 360 camera right now, or maybe they're watching a YouTube video on how VR content is made.